let's jump right into it today with our guest, John Ballard from Valhalla Golf Club. John, how are you?
I am good. How are you guys today?
We are well. It's been a busy summer, as I'm sure is the case for you, and transitioning into fall. Given the nature of the event you hosted in May, I'm not really even sure where to get started. I think, for me, it would have been really hard to kind of go back to work on Monday when that event's over and just go back to business. I mean, what's the recovery been like for you? Not even from a turf recovery standpoint, just from like a human being standpoint.
It's been interesting. I don't think when you sort of sign up for these things, you say, "Hey, we're going to host a major championship." You get really excited about doing that. There's a tremendous amount of work that goes into it, as you can imagine. We really kind of started almost 3 years ago with the transition from the bent to the zoysia, and then you go throughout the week, and things are really kind of clicking. You've got a lot of I guess, sort of energy and adrenaline that you're kind of running off of. And then all of a sudden it's over. And oh, by the way, we still have an entire golf season to play. And so you've got to kind of get the guys sort of ready. And I think the biggest thing for us, it was pretty simple. It was just some time off
Hmm.
and allocating time to the guys. We kind of did that in bits and pieces to make sure they could get away, kind of hit the refresh button. I was able to get away. I didn't go away till kind of mid June, but my wife, Chris, and I were celebrating 25 years. And so we got away for a week, just the two of us, and try to get a little bit of that mental reset and then come back and attack the golf course the rest of the summer. So that's been it. Basically, time off for guys has been probably the biggest recipe for us.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, Brandon and I were only there for 3 or 4 days of the week, but we both, number one, I think Brandon, you'd agree, we came home exhausted from the time that we were there.
Yeah,
And
and
then
we only really worked 2 days.
that's right.
It felt
And
like three or
and
four, but it was
and
only
that,
two.
and then the other part was, I think, John, we were on property before 4 a.m. And the thing that Brandon and I noticed is that, walking onto the property at 3:45 in the morning, and you and your team had been there for a while. That was abundantly clear.
Yeah. we uh we were a really pretty well-oiled machine, I thought, in terms we just did so much planning leading up to it. I mean, having never done one before, I was really kind of concerned about how we're going to get this done. We had 100 volunteers come and join our team of about 40. And so it was a lot of just preparation, but the days were long. We would usually get in around 3:30 in the morning, start having things going. Morning meeting was at 4:30. The goal was to have reels on the ground at 5, which we kept getting better and better throughout the course of the week. We were a little shaky at first, and then we kept getting better. And then we had to be off the golf course really by about 7:15 because they did number 1 and number 10 tee starts at 7:15. We could have a few small quiet things going on, maybe still changing the last cut, but largely needed to get the golf course completely prepared in just over 2 hours. And then so that would finish up. We'd come back, breakfast, and then our team would usually debrief for about an hour to talk about what did we do, what are we going to do for our evening shifts and things like that. I would meet with Kerry Haig around 10 a.m. each morning. He'd come down to my office and we'd spend 30, 45 minutes just, hey, John, what kind of marks are you seeing on the greens from a speed standpoint, moisture, different things like that. I'd let him know what our plan was going to be for the evening. And so that would kind of take me up until about 11:30 or so. And then you would have about 3 hours where you were kind of some dead period, whether you wanted to catch a nap, which was very difficult to do, or just kind of, watch a little TV or something like that. And then the evening meeting started at 4. So we were kind of already back in the tent and at 3:30 or so and getting ready to talk about our sponsors who really largely helped us with the event. So that was another piece of it. And then had our dinner, went over everything we were going to do. It varied on what time we could get out there. The first couple of days, because of the double wave starts, we really weren't back on the golf course till about 7:30, almost 8 o'clock one night. That would go until about 10. Then the volunteers would come in, mad dash for them to leave. Well, then our guys then stayed back and got everything put away and staged for the next day. So we typically were not getting out of here until about anywhere between 11 and midnight. And so you get all the equipment staged. So when you come in the next day, everything was ready to go. So you're kind of running on about 3 hours of sleep a day. And I would tell myself, you're not going to bed. Like I would get home, I'd say, you're taking a nap. You're just going to lay down for a minute. And then sure enough, the alarm would go off and shower and shave and rinse and repeat and do it. So it was a long week for sure. No doubt.
Yeah, well, you handled it well. I mean, it was like watching a conductor in an orchestra. You know, I mean, you were just out there conducting traffic. You looked unfazed by the stress of everything.
That's good. I did a good job of hiding. I guess I did a good
You
job of
fooled
hiding.
everybody.
Yeah, that was great. That was great.
Yeah, I remember. I don't know that I had an opportunity to even tell you this when we were there, John, but I think it was like the first or second day Brandon and I were there. The guy who was coming to bring coffee and breakfast, I think you had told him to like be there at 3:30 or whatever time you told him. He was about 20 minutes late. And if somebody walked up to him and said, "Do you understand how significant coffee is for an event like this?"
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that he knew it then, but he knew it after.
They did great. Yeah, they were a great group to work with. Cravings, I think was the name of them. So
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the fundraising that was required, because that was something that was new to me when we were talking in the lead up to that. And like I think that's something that people don't really fully appreciate, is that you bring all these volunteers onto the golf course to work, as a part of the crew, and you're responsible for essentially all of the things that go into supporting those 140 people, which is amazing to me when you consider the resources that an organization, not just the PGA, but also the tour and the USGA have, to to provide for those folks, and you had to go out and raise the money from partners in the industry. I just thought that was amazing, and I didn't fully appreciate it until we talked about it.
yeah, so I mentioned we had about 100 volunteers. Of those 100, roughly 50 of them were from out of town or overseas. So people that we had to put up in hotels, things like that. Then we had about 50 that were in town or around the area that they could stay at their own homes and some different things like that. But yeah, we had to raise right around $170,000, $175,000 to really kind of put this thing on, to provide uniforms, to provide housing, food, transportations of renting 15 passenger vans. We used caddies that we paid for the week to do that. So it really kind of took a lot. And the strategy really was just to be open and honest with our industry partners, to go to the Syngentas and the Bayers and BASFs of the world, or Enviews and everybody down the line, and just say, hey, here's what I need to do. What are you willing to help us with? And I think I've just built some good relationships over the years with guys, and so it was a real just open, honest conversation. And then we were able to talk to them and say, what would you like to get out of it? If you put up $5,000 or $10,000, what are your expectations for that? And I wanted it to be so much more than just a banner in the volunteer tent. I wanted it to be a good experience for them, so that it was really our goal that whether you volunteered or you supported through dollars or anything like that, but you walked away from this event and said, man, that was worth it. I had a great experience. I would go back to Valhalla. I mean, it's a lot of what we try to do with, our interns. We talked about some of that, but it was very important to me. And so a lot of that just resulted into access. They wanted access to the golf course, to the tournament, to some of the volunteers and things like that. And we were able to structure it in a way that I thought it went really, really well. We had some giveaways for them in terms of a Louisville Slugger baseball bat that we had engraved with the PGA logo. We had the PGA Championship Elijah Craig bourbon bottle that we were able to give to guys, and just some thank yous like that. But I think by and large, it's been good. We'll see. Early order season opens up here in about 4 weeks, so we'll see who all's ready to come collect on their donations that they made. But I thought we structured it in a way that everybody had a good experience.
Yeah, I mean, the early order thing is a good kind of segue. One of the things that I'm curious about, John, is you clearly had to have a program going into the tournament, so 2023 into 2024, that probably is atypical from what you would do in maintaining the golf course in the past. And I'm curious to know, like, what will the changes be, comparatively? Like, what did you have to do different to host a major event in May that's kind of outside what your normal practices might be for member play?
So I would say we just really kind of stepped up frequencies more than anything. I mean, not to sound like an idiot, but we try to keep the golf course at a pretty high level all the time. Now, is it major championship level? No, but it really was just kind of frequencies. The one of the bigger challenges was the zoysia grass. So we've got a dormant grass that is trying to wake up. We had monitored kind of the timing of that over the last couple of years, and then in 2023, we really embarked on a kind of pigment and paint program of various levels. We did a lot of trial work with that, and we kind of landed on what we thought looked good. And so that was something that was new that we had to implement that we typically wouldn't do. I think also the timing of the year being in May, it's also, hey, we've got to get out pre-emergence in our rough, and we've got to get, soil applications for take-all patch and things like that on the greens. And so there were a lot of applications that we were running to get us to that point. And then you throw in some of this stuff with the pigment work and paint and those types of things. It just made for a very busy spring. And then to me, it was all about just frequency with mowing. How were we going to get to the level that we wanted to get at, and perform well during the tournament? And so working with, our PGRs on the greens and things like that. So we didn't have to mow them 4 times a day to get the speeds that we wanted and some things like that. So there were some things, but we did a lot of that in the years leading up to it. A big thing for me was I just wasn't going to come out in March and April of this year and just say, well, let's see what happens if we put this product out, right? We wanted to have already tested those things and know for certain, or within some level of certainty, we put this out, this is the result we're going to get. And so we really kind of worked on that the years leading up to it.
No, and that definitely makes a lot of sense. I mean, that you wouldn't want to, go with no net, so to speak, into hosting your first major. That could be risky.
Yes.
So one other thing I think that's interesting is I may be misremembering, but I think you told me that you at Valhalla were cart path only. Was it all of 2023? They were on the path, or like after the middle of July leading into 24?
So we are cart path only all the time. Even this year, we've been cart path only. Now there are exceptions with that, with just handicaps, restrictions, things like that. So if you need access to a cart, you are warranted a golf cart. But largely, the new ownership group came in and really wanted to kind of get it back to its roots of being a walking golf course with caddies. And so we're pretty fortunate. I mean, I don't know too many warm season golf courses in the middle of the summer that are cart path only, and yet we are.
Yeah, that's super fortunate. I mean, one of the things that is an active research project for this fall for my group is it's really simple, just looking at car traffic, maybe on Bermuda grass, but car traffic on Bermuda grass at fairway height, and looking at what does that do, just the simple traffic alone with nothing else, and delays and how we come out spring green up wise in the springtime. Do we get more POA pressure if we have more cart traffic? I think these are things that we all know to be true, but you'd be hard pressed to find any numbers to kind of quantify that as a real effect. Been fortunate. We've had a couple of golf courses submit rounds played data from varying levels of budget around around Knoxville. So I'm excited by the fact that we'll have relevant cart traffic numbers. We're going to try to simulate the entry and exit points, like the worst case scenario. So like, what does that worst case scenario look like? And then maybe like a fraction down from that compared to if you were cart path only the whole time and see. But you guys are super fortunate to have that ownership stance in place.
What I will say though, what we trade in cart traffic, not only for just activity in the fairways, largely the cool season roughs, particularly those entry exit, we trade that for foot traffic on putting green surfaces. So when we have days where, and this is a busy time of year for us, this Friday, I think we have 150 on the books. Well, probably those 150 will have somewhere to the tune of about 75 caddies with them. So now you've got 225 people plus our group all around that green that day. Kind of thing. So we've seen, there's a little bit of a trade to it.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So, going through the scale of the project that you did, I mean, and for those that aren't familiar, I mean, you regressed almost the entirety of the golf course. Is there anything you would have done differently? Right. And that could be things that maybe you wanted to have be part of the project that got cut for time, budget, whatever. Like if you could go back and redo it, would you do it the exact same way? Would you tweak it? Like what would that look like?
I really feel like based on what we're seeing today, I don't know that I would change a whole heck of a lot. The biggest, hurdles I think we had to get over with the zoysia grass. We basically in 2021, we finished up with the girls junior PGA Championship at the end of July, and we started this project August the 2nd. We sodded 30 acres of Zeon zoysia grass, worked in great partnership with BiSod, SodStar, and Andy Perry in terms of securing that. But with the timeline, we only had about half of that rooted, and the other half we laid some of our last sod in November, so it largely sat there unrooted. So we struggled in 22, a lot of weeds coming through the seams. We were mowing fairways with rotary mowers, different things like that. We took the stance that we encompassed all of our bunkers in the zoysia grass. That was a little painful for a year or so. We took it right up to the green. So we are a dead hard transition from the zoysia to the bentgrass putting greens. But it just took time. And now when you see it in 2024, it is spectacular. I mean, it is just the tie-ins to the bunkers, the way that we've been able to adjust our PGRs and GPS sprayers for the bent, to handle that load versus not on the zoysia grass and things like that. It's taken us a little bit of time, but I don't know in the end I would have done a lot different based on what I'm seeing now.
Well, then that means you nailed it, right?
I don't know about that, but
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, yeah, I don't want to say there's a fad because that makes it seem like non-substantial, but many clubs are going through some sort of renovation right now, whether that's a renovation or restoration. And, and working with those clubs and asking that question, I'd say your answer is atypical. Most that have finished have told me well, if I could go back, I would have put more drainage in, or I would have asked to maybe renovate another part of the golf course that wasn't in the original plan because we were closed anyway. And those are hard conversations because it's more budget and more time and sometimes an extended closure. It's just interesting. I mean, Brandon and I were on a renovation project last week. I mean, and they're moving right along, and I think they're going to be markedly better for what they've done. But I think if we were to ask that superintendent, Brandon, he probably would have advocated for a little more. Don't you agree?
Yeah, he for sure would. Yeah. And speaking of like the big event, there's a question in the Q&A box. Did you experience any course abuse, or what was the course abuse like by the audience, the spectator and fan group?
it was pretty significant. I mean, I don't know that I properly kind of anticipated what that was going to be. You're like, okay, we know we're going to have some level of damage, but I don't think we quite anticipated that. I guess the first thing I would say, the in-play surfaces, our putting green was really in a bad spot post-tournament. Just the amount of traffic and swing coaches and families and guys sitting out there and the chalk marks and things on it. It was pretty rough. In fact, I think we were talking before we came on, we kind of went backwards a little bit on putting green quality post-tournament. June was a hot, dry month. And so we really kind of had to sort of regroup and get our game plan together and get where we needed to be. And then as it relates to outside the ropes, you had not only 250,000 spectators on the property throughout the course of the week, we had put down 14 acres of gravel for back of the house and cart path work. You had about 16 acres worth of structures. All those came down, and you were left with just kind of bare ground and things like that. So as we put this plan together, we really kind of started to focus on in-play areas first, which largely revolved around grandstands on greens complexes. We wanted to get back to having some level of normal golf as fast as we could. And to me, it was important as a guy that plays the game, like what impacts me the most. And it was kind of that greens complex, immediately off fairways, that kind of thing. So our team started working on doing some sod work. We're really starting to hit our stride now in terms of side work. We're doing the big area behind 18 green in the clubhouse, sort of that main thoroughfare of patrons today. It's been prepped, and actually the sod's coming in today. That's about a 15,000 square foot area. The gravel has now been picked up, and we've got a contractor on site that's going to work with us in terms of just regrading and shaping some of these things, making sure we're getting water to move back to catch basins. And then next week, we will start to get our hydroseeders in and then start working on all these areas to kind of get that and try to time it with the fall. And then largely hope to be done by the end of October with all this type of thing. But it was significant. So everybody leaves, and that the post-championship hangover is a very real thing. I mean, you're so excited, and then they leave, and then your golf course is trashed, and that's what you get to get up early and come in and look at every day. And so it was a mentally tough thing to get through, but we've got such a great bunch of guys, and and they've really exceeded my expectations this summer. And I think the golf course now is honestly probably the best. It's certainly the best it's been in my time here, my 5 years here. But it's performing at a very high level, and now we just got to kind of get to some of these outside edge areas and get it back and put it to bed good for the winter.
Yeah, because you figure like in May, you have the championship, right? And then you're going right into the summer. So for the putting surfaces, there's like you're you know you're behind the eight ball in terms of recovery because you're just trying to hang on and keep things okay until you get to now, so that you can really get things into much better shape, right?
Yeah,
And that's true
absolutely.
for the golf course.
Yeah. We were able to see, I mentioned we kind of go backwards in June, and then towards the tail end of June into July, we started to get a little bit of rain here or there. Temperatures weren't too terrible. And so we actually saw a lot of really nice recovery in July, which doesn't always happen. So I think that, we've been sort of playing around with kind of our wetting agents on greens. I think I finally have found a recipe that I really like that drives water and moves it through. PGR wise, we've got a nice little routine going with it too, where we're not blowing grass out of the ground. It felt like we'd get to August and grass was just kind of blowing out of the ground, regardless of how much plant growth regulators we had put on. So there's been kind of a combination of things. We really kind of even took a hard look at our hand watering techniques and some things like that. So we were able to keep everything really, really pretty firm and moving water. We've got portable PA units, precision air units that we would use even if we caught a cool morning. We might come out and actually blow air into the cavity. So although we're kind of in a hot stretch, you might get a morning where it's 62, where we'd come out and hook those up and take that ambient air and blow it into the cavity. And so I think there's been a variety of things we've done to kind of get us in the spot that we're at right now.
I mean, I've got to think too, John, that the stress, particularly in the out of play areas where the fans were, had to be made worse from the rain. I mean, you had pretty significant rain that week, right?
That's correct. So a lot of mudded areas and some things like that. I would say the biggest thing that I noticed was just the breakdown of pre-emergence. The amount of nutsedge, goosegrass, and crabgrass that we see on property now is very untypical of what we normally see. So that was, and I've heard that from some other superintendents in the area. So maybe it's just the way that the summer played out. But our pre-emergent, we really have more crab and goosegrass than we normally see.
Well, I mean, I think that's totally logical because, I mean, I'd argue that when you'd make your sequential application would be just about the time when the tournament would be wrapping down.
Right.
I mean, so like you didn't really have a window to do that because, with the fan structures, I mean, I'm thinking back to I think it was the merchandise structure to the left side of 17. I mean, I mean, granted, that's a little bit off the quarter of the play of where you might spray or pre-emerge, but there were pretty large structures across the property. And I'm sure it took some time to get those down before you could even get a sprayer in there to apply what you wanted to apply.
Absolutely. And largely what we did is we just kind of stayed still, right? Let's let them do their work and do those types of things. And then we'll kind of evaluate what we've got. You've also got the amount of damage to cart paths was pretty significant. And so, while we personally won't be doing that work, it does involve time. I mean, I've had multiple contractors on site that I've got to show them the level of work that we want to get done, as it pertains to cart paths and getting those bids secure, and now getting ready to orchestrate that's going to happen here in a couple of weeks. So it's been a lot. And you're also trying to maintain the golf course, and you've got member guests and club championships and all those types of things. And so, trying to balance all that. I think for me, being able to get away like I did, I, at least if nothing else, just sort of had a mindset when I got back that I know we're going to work hard. I know we've got good plans in place. And at the end of the day, that is going to be good. It there's We're just not going to get it all done. And so once I was able to kind of switch to that mindset, it has made the summer so much better. It certainly helps that the golf course is in good shape. But to stress out and worry, how am I going to get this done? It just didn't do any good. I knew we were going to work hard, and I knew that the guys around me were going to work hard. And we had a good plan, and that was going to have to be good enough.
Well, what'll be cool, and I could say this because I know you have several of our students that now work for you, is, that's a great culture to move forward throughout our business, right? If that can move forward, I think the whole business will be better. And for those guys to spend time with you and learn under that, that's awesome.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of great guys here, and a bunch of Vols that have gone on and done, got even better jobs after being here, which is really kind of the goal. You want people in the industry to do well and do what's in their best interest, not to hoard everybody and keep everybody here, but hopefully they come. And we talk about that experience piece, right? We've got Michael Salvatore is here with us this summer. At some point Michael's going to leave, and maybe these guys go back to school or whatnot, but we need them to be advocates for Valhalla. And it's what he says when I'm not around that matters, right? It's what Keely Posh says when I'm not around. So did she have a good experience? I mean, only she could answer that, or only he could answer that. So that's really kind of the goal.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I know we appreciate that as particularly Brandon and John, working with the undergrads as they do to place them with appropriate internship mentors. I mean, that's a huge factor, right?
It's huge, and it's a testament to you, John, because, you just mentioned Michael's there now and Keely was recently there, but it's been an assembly line since you've gotten there of rotating students, and they come back and they talk to the other students. So it's like what you said, what they say when you're not there, it's what they say when they come back to school too, and say, it's a great place. We had a great experience. And I got to do a lot. That's a whole other thing. It's when we send our students out, sometimes they get stuck on a weed whip all summer and raking bunkers. The other students are getting to do everything, getting to do greens committee meetings even, and budgeting and stuff like that. So it's that experience that's why they keep coming back to you.
Yeah, it's good. And even, next week we get down for Beacon Days and things like that. And I had just sort of our little table poster made up. But if we went back and started looking at who are the volunteers that have been here and what are they doing now, and it was really cool. I mean, folks have come and done an internship, and then they're now assistant superintendents at high level clubs, or they've come as an AIT and then gone on to do something different. So it's neat.
Well, it's funny, John. So Dr. Bowling, who's been our lead planner on Beacon, she shared a story that, you had asked, I guess, what do we need to do as, an entity that's coming, looking for students, whether it's in internships or permanent positions. As an employer, what do we need to do for setup? And she relayed some of the extent that, well, you need to design, you have the space, you can decorate the space and do whatever you want with the space in whatever way you think it'll engage the students. And your immediate response was, we got it, we're good.
Well, we've been doing it for a while. I mean, not only with you guys coming back. I mean, obviously coming back to Tennessee is always special to me. But we try to kind of get out and around the area. We went up to Penn State for a couple of years and talked to those students. And we're just trying to get our message out that we think this is a good place to come learn turf grass, to get involved, to have a little bit of fun, and do those types of things. And then people can choose whether they want to come or not. I feel like we're in a really good spot to where we don't. In the beginning, it was like, oh my gosh, we got to find intern, we got to find some help. And now it's like, you know what, if we just stay true to who we are and let them make the decision, it usually works out pretty well.
So do you think, I mean, there was an announcement, I guess, a couple weeks ago about the Solheim Cup, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 2028?
That's correct.
So do you think now with that out there that there'll be a push to maybe make some changes to the golf course, or just the crew will be energized to kind of reboot the engines again to work towards that? Like, as you go towards that event, like, do you think you'll do anything differently than you did this last time, or address other parts of the golf course, or all to be determined?
I think a little bit would be to be determined. Our ownership group is very passionate about Valhalla. They want it to be successful. They want it to stay in major championship spotlight type thing. So the announcement of the Solheim Cup was really big. Just like I mentioned, we'll really kind of be paying attention to what does the golf course look like in mid-September? What are the things that we're doing really well, and what are the things we're struggling with? One of those things is largely kind of our rough. Our rough is very inconsistent with Bermuda and bent and POA and fescue and all that kind of stuff. And we're kind of patchy in some areas right now. So it's like, okay, what do I need to be doing next year and the year after to be a little more consistent in some of these playing surfaces? So we'll continue to monitor what we're doing leading up to September and that thing. I think it's going to be a cool thing that the guys will get excited about. It's a much smaller footprint. So it's essentially the Women's Ryder Cup. So it's 24 players versus 144. Certainly the crowds will be smaller. They anticipate maybe 100 to 125. So about half. The build out will be smaller, and those types of things. So yeah, you almost kind of feel like, well, we did the largest build out the PGA's ever done, and that went pretty good. hopefully we'll be in a good spot to handle this one as well too. So, but we're excited about that. And I think if we were going to make any changes to the golf course, it large changes, it probably coincides with right after that. And then the hope would be that the PGA of America makes its announcement sometime around that time frame and announces the next PGA Championship that might be here in 32, 33, 34, 35, somewhere in there. But I know our owners are committed to bringing championship golf to Valhalla.
Well, that's great to hear. And, I think I speak for everybody on this call that, particularly having been involved in a small capacity for a few days that week, to then post event, listen to all these golf broadcasts, kind of knock the property, knock the presentation of things. Boy, it made my blood boil, and I don't work there every day. I can't imagine what it was like for you guys to hear that chatter. And it just, the lack of understanding's probably never been higher about what's possible as a function of getting rain during an event week.
Yeah, again, you just can do the things that you can do. I would argue that the playing surfaces were so good, and we got a little softer than we would have liked because of the rain. But there is never a bad lie that's in the fairways. The putting greens were as true as they possibly could have been. Could they have been a little firmer and faster? Sure, but the weather kind of impacted some of that. But man, if you put a ball online, it tended to go into the hole. The ability that these guys have around the greens, it's uncanny. Gosh, at East Lake, what'd they shoot there? I know they had, if you take away their starting scores, they still were around 20 under, right? Which is what we were.
That's right. Yeah.
When you hear some of the pundits kind of talking about, when I hear them just throw out words like sub air and some things like that. I think even at East Lake, I heard somebody make the comment on the Golf Channel that they needed more organic in the fairway. And I knew that, what is this guy he doesn't even know what he's talking about, kind of thing. So, for me, our judge was the PGA of America and Kerry Haig. That's all I cared about. Kerry was over the moon excited about the conditioning of the golf course. The PGA sold more tickets than they ever have, more merchandise than they ever have. Viewership was up. To me, that's a home run, regardless of what anybody else says.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because what I think is interesting is the divergence between the top level players in the world and what they thought of the golf course. They actually played on the golf course, versus some of those pundits talking about like it was too easy. It's obvious that it's not a hard enough golf course. It's like every one of those players mentioned, well, we got rain early in the week and that just made the golf course a little softer and it opened it up for more scoring. Like they know what happened exactly. Like, and they were like, it was great. And they just know that when they play a golf course that's a little softer after a rain, they're going to score better because they can tighten up their targets a little bit tighter. They can be a little more aggressive than they might be able to if the ball was going to bounce and run out a little bit. They can hit different clubs off of tees because the ball isn't going to roll too far into trouble. They know what those things are. And then you listen to some of these pundits talk about like, it wasn't hard enough. It's like, you guys just have no idea what you're talking about. No clue.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's hard to fill the air, but
What's crazy too, that week, we had so much wind leading up to the championship. I mentioned all the applications that we had to make, and it became a challenge at times, right? To go spray pre-emergence or whatever the case may be. And then there was not a breath of wind that whole week. It just laid down. It's an outside game. The other thing too is you had a first-time major champion, popular golfer, Xander Schauffele, win with the final putt on 18. Who cares what the score is or what they say? The excitement and drama that basically have three guys in it on the back nine with Hovland and DeChambeau and Schauffele, and Hovland kind of falls off. But you had DeChambeau, a very popular guy. He goes on and wins the U.S. Open. Schauffele goes on and wins the Open. So the two guys that got down to the finals at Valhalla then went on to win the next two majors. I don't know how it gets much better than that. Xander was very complimentary of us and our staff. It was great.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So you didn't orchestrate Scotty Scheffler getting a rest with the weather conditions to distract from all the rain?
No, not at
Just
all.
kidding.
Not at all. That was such a unfortunate
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, it was, but I mean, the condition of the course and everything, like you said, players coming down to the last hole was fantastic. It was one of the better majors I'd seen in a long time, in my opinion. It was great.
I watch a lot of golf. I could make an argument. I'd love for the PGA Tour to maybe re-examine how they're doing this Tour Championship at the end, because yesterday's golf just wasn't that exciting. It was already kind of a foregone conclusion a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely true. And sometimes as a fan, it gets frustrating that they try to force it in around the football schedule, which I understand that too, but there's got to be a better way to make it more engaging at the end. And
Yeah.
part of that could be just like not calling it the playoffs, right?
Right.
I think they get into trouble by just calling it the playoffs, because that kind of like creates stakes that just aren't there with their current setup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder, John, when you were
Playoffs.
talking about future, the Solheim Cup and whatnot in the future, one of the jokes I had in my head, and John, Dr. Sorokin, as he always does, just clears the path to bring this stuff forward, is whether or not the traffic situation will be changed for the Solheim Cup, because we don't want Nelly Corda to, end up in a jail cell before her tee time.
Yeah, I'm going to stick to what I know best, and that's turf and grass, and I'm going to let the people that do traffic patterns, let them work on that.
It was a busy road. I think we can all say it was a very, very busy road, particularly in early hours of the morning.
With our new facility, our new agronomy center here, we have a completely separate entrance. So I had no knowledge of what was going on. Uh, what alerted me was we started having caddies and people coming in through our gates. And I knew something was wrong. So I got in touch with the PGA then to kind of figure that piece out. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you had enough going on that week that extra was probably not anything you were interested in.
Well, if you remember that day in particular, we ended up with a fog delay until about 10:30 or so that morning. I mean, it just unheard. You just never would see stuff like that in May. It was just humid and muggy, and it was crazy.
And everything we've talked about today, from management of the golf course to renovating the golf course, we didn't even touch on the fact that in the whole process of that, you built a whole new maintenance facility and moved it to the other side of the property.
We did. Super thankful to be in our new space. The original facility was built in 1986, and it just had become outgrown. And, to the point to where last year we basically have our morning meetings outside because you don't have enough space in there, and some things like that. A lot of people think, oh, Valhalla, they've got it all. Well, we didn't. We had equipment that had to sit outside and some things like that. So with the new owners, they recognized the need for that. We also wanted to use that space for media. That has largely grown. I think in the 2014 PGA Championship, they needed about 2.5, 3 acres. Now they require 8 acres of space for all these tractor trailers and things like that. So it's kind of a combination of things, but fortunate enough to build. But that definitely took time, and working with the architects and saying, hey, here's the needs of the break room and the size, and sort of what are we trying to do with our wash pad and environmental building, and pesticide storage, and where do we want the lifts and the equipment building and some things like that. So that definitely was a challenge. And then we didn't move in here until really January of this year. And you know how much you hate moving your house, right? Imagine moving all of these nuts and bolts and reels and pieces of equipment and stuff and bringing them over here. And we had, a nice facility, but we had no tool racks and had to get all that established. So really January, February, that was going on. And we kind of put a marker in the ground, said, listen, after February the 28th, we're not doing anything more on the shop. It's all focused on the golf course. And so it was, yeah, it's been a lot. I think when I say it all out loud, it reminds me how much it was. When you live through it, you just kind of get up and do it. And then you'll start talking to somebody. Oh yeah, I guess we did do that.
Was it an education in permitting? And I asked that question. Brandon and I visited a club last week that's in the midst of building a new compound, and they had put a lot of thought into kind of the flow of the facility, like how people would enter and exit, and like what's logical to have a sprayer come in and come out relative to where products will be stored, or mowers kind of being washed off to go then have real maintenance done. But the director of that facility commented over and over again about just the permitting hurdles of working with the municipality they were in to get the permitting in place to do what they wanted to do. Was that the case for you when you built yours?
So I was fortunate enough. We worked a lot on sort of the flow and sort of the layouts and different things like that. But in terms of the permitting, we had a contractor that handled all of that, largely because we were also doing a massive clubhouse renovation. And so we had one company that was kind of working on both ends of it. And we had to kind of expedite this process. I mean, the clubhouse, I mean, we literally were sweeping, dust under the rug right before everybody showed up in May and getting this facility going. In fact, we're actually tearing down the old one right now. I mentioned, I end up being the guy that kind of lands on that stuff, to land on, hey, John, can you get with the contractor doing this? So we're actually tearing the old one down. But yeah, but we had someone else that was taking care of that for us.
Well, lucky you, because from the sounds of it, that sounds like no fun at all.
I can't imagine.
So I've brought up on the screen for those that are with us our GCSAA continuing education units code for this session. Again, this has nothing to do with pesticides or pesticide application. This is only for certified golf course superintendents. The event approval code that you will provide to the GCSAA website is right here. That's 999-254-03-33610. In the event you are watching this as a recorded session on YouTube or listening to it at Apple Podcasts, you want to make sure that you put today's event date, September 3rd, 2024, when you upload that to the GCSAA website. But that should give you all the information you need for those continuing education units. I'm going to leave that up while we kind of get wrapped here, John, as we get closer to the hour, closer to 12:30, I should say, Eastern time. We've touched a little bit on the Solheim Cup and whatnot, and that kind of makes me think about like what's next for you. We've already kind of covered long-term next. What's next in the short term? Like what does fall of 2024 look like to put the golf course to bed for this year?
I think just try to kind of stay focused on September and October, right? 2 great growing months, even a little bit into November, and just make sure we kind of get things tidied up the way we need to. And then as we get to mid-November Thanksgiving, then that'll be time for us to take a pretty big step back. I've mentioned that to our general manager as well as our ownership group. I mean, not that we're not going to do anything, but we are going to have an off season this year. We're going to give guys time away and not be pushed quite as much as what we have been the last 3 winters, kind of thing. So it's really just trying to make sure the guys stay focused, and I'm confident they'll do that. We meet regularly and really kind of have pretty good plans and strategies on what we're going to do, and I'm certain they'll do it.
Well, that's awesome. And you guys certainly deserve the downtime. You probably put more hours in the first 3 weeks of May, maybe, than the month of May for the next 5 years. I don't know. I mean, it's big hour totals for those 3 weeks.
I think the hourly guys ended up with about 120 is where they landed for the week. Yeah.
And I think you had 2 gentlemen, I forget their names. They were maybe international interns that came for advance week, or maybe 2 weeks before, like advance week and the week before advance week. It came, they were non-paid, just there for the experience, putting in 100+ hours too. Am I remembering that correctly?
That's correct. We had 2 guys, one from England, one from Germany, that came over, and just with their travel and stuff, it made a little more sense to stay for a couple weeks versus just the 1 week. And it was great. I think they had a good experience, and they did a great job.
Yeah, for sure. Well, John, I mean, I appreciate your time. I know we look forward to seeing you down here in Knoxville, I guess probably next week, right, Becky?
That's right, next week.
Yeah. So it'll be
Hey, John, can you one of the other things that you've been involved in is something to try to involve folks that are alums of our program. You were a part of our program before we were a part of the program. Can you speak a little bit to that effort and talk a little bit about what you've been up to with some of the other folks, kind of getting this off the ground and plug that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So really largely Andy Perry was kind of the brainchild behind this thing, but basically to establish an organization, Balls and Turf, that can begin to start to sort of give back to the programs to really help the students out, whether that be in the form of scholarships or, preparing for interviews or just things. I think it'll organically kind of grow. But Andy has spent a lot of time kind of getting this together, as well as Ryan Blair, Amanda Potter, and some different folks. Becky's been involved with a little bit, but it's really kind of been 2 years in the making. And the idea is to begin to sort of raise funds to work with these industry partners, kind of like what we talked about with the PGA Championship, to begin to establish things that we can give back. The Tennessee Turf Program has been good to a lot of us, right? I mean, we're very proud to be Vols, and it's just a way to say, hey, how can we begin to give back to this next generation that's involved and continue to establish Tennessee as really the premier turf program in the country. So there'll be a little bit more to come. I think Beacon Days, we're going to make our first announcement for scholarships. There'll be definitely more on it at the TTA in Murfreesboro and some things like that, but really looking forward to getting this thing off the ground.
Well, we certainly appreciate the support because it's exciting, and we're excited that our alums want to be a part of that too.
Yeah, for sure. And it's been a point of emphasis ever since, Becky, I think you got here, to kind of connect those pieces a little bit more together than they had been. And it's all, everything happens at the right time, and it seems like it's happening at the right time here. So it'll definitely be good to have you down next week, John, and see you and the team. And hopefully it lands 2 or 3 more UT students up at Valhalla for next year and getting another great experience.
And we'll have this cool Yeti for you, John, when you come.
Look at that. Perfect.
You can't.
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. I always enjoy getting back on campus and seeing folks, and hopefully we get a lot of students that come by, and there's a lot of good opportunities for them, whether it's with us or somebody else. But looking forward to seeing everybody.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's leave it there, John. I know you're a busy guy. Thank you. Thanks so much for your time. And we will be back in October with our final Turf Tuesdays of the year then. But until October, I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day.